Hello, 7th grade. This is video 6 in our 3rd unit, and we're talking about percents. So, we have our triangle here of different ways that you can represent, well, not represent a percent, but how you can find one. First, we have 80%. We have it as a decimal, 0.80, and then we have 4/5. Now, all of these are connected. And remember, when we're trying to find a percent, we're taking it out of 100. 100% is our whole. So, if I wanted to take 80% and turn it into a decimal, well, I just write 80%, and I move my decimal place over 2 places, and that will give me 0.80. If I wanted to say 80% to this fraction here, I could do 80 over 100, and if we divide by 20, it will equal 4/5. And then lastly, if I wanted to take it from 4/5 to 0.80, well, I can divide my denominator into my numerator. 5 to 4.0, and that will give me 0.8. So, as you can see, all of these are connected. Now, we're going to use a percent bar to show what is 60% of 34. So, I draw my percent bar, and 34 is my 100%. So, let's say I want to start with, since I'm trying to find what 60% is, I'll figure out what 50% is. Well, I would just divide 34 by 2, and that would give me 17. Excuse me. So, see if I can break this up into 70, 80, 5 even pieces. And I could see that if I divided 17 by 5, that will give me 20.4. Now, if I wanted to set this up as a proportion, so, I'm sorry, 60% would equal, I think that's so wrong.
Yeah.
This should be 3.4. And if I add 17 to 3.4, that will give me 20.4. So that would be my 60%. Now, if I want to show this as a proportion, all I have to do is flip this, and I can write it as 60 over 100. Because you see I have my 60 and my 100 right here, and I can say that this equals 20.4 over 34. So those are 2 ways that we could find what 60% of 34 would be. Now, next, if I was doing what 15, well, 15 is what percent of 35? So, once again, I have 35 as my 100%, have 15 there, then I have X. Well, once again, if I flip my board, I can make my proportion having X over 100, and then 15 over 35. So I'm going to write 15 over 35 equals X over 100. So if I divide 100 by 35, that should give me 2.86. So I know that 35 times 2.86 will give me 100. So I would do the same thing up here. I would do 15 times 2.86, and it should equal 42.9. I could also cross multiply, where I could have 15 over 35 and x over 100. If I cross multiply, excuse me, I would have 1500, well 35x equals 1500. If I divide both sides by 35, still get the same thing, x equals 42.9. Next we have percent of change. So the formula for percent of change is the amount of change over the original. So we have our problem here. John weighed 220 pounds. He now weighs 200 pounds. What is his percent of change? So first, I will write my amount of change, which is 220 minus 200, all over my original, which is 220. This will equal 20 over 220. And when I divide that, I will get 0.09, which if I move my decimal place over 2 places will give me 9%. We'll do another example. We have in 2005, Northwest Middle School had 850 students. In 2012, we had 985 students. What is the percent of change? Well, once again, we start with our amount of change. So we would do 985 minus 850. And then I'll put it all over my original, which was 850. Because if you remember, we started out with 850 students. So if I subtract that, I'll have 135 all over 850, which would equal 0.158. If I move my decimal place over 2 places, give me 15.8%.